The metal corridors of Refugee Station Epsilon. 7 were always cold. Day 1 pulled his worn jacket tighter as he walked through the dim hallways. His boots made soft sounds on the floor. Around him, thousands of beings from across the galaxy tried to survive in the crowded station. The war had ended 6 months ago, but scars remained everywhere. Day 1 was 45 years old, though he looked older. His dark hair had gray streaks now. A long scar ran down his left cheek, a gift from the Battle of Carina Nebula. His right hand trembled sometimes when he was tired. The doctors said it was nerve damage. Day 1 knew it was more than that. Some wounds went deeper than flesh. He had been a soldier once. A good one. His squad called it the Iron Wall because he never retreated, never left anyone behind. But the war took everything from him. His friends died one by one. His home planet was blockaded. His family evacuated to somewhere he could not follow. When peace finally came, Day 1 found himself alone on the station with nothing but a small veteran's payment each month. It was not enough to live on, so he took odd jobs. Today, he was fixing ventilation systems in the lower decks. The station administrator, a kind woman named Hannah, always gave him work when she could. She knew he needed it. The lower decks were the worst part of the station. Dark, damp, and forgotten. The refugees down here had no money, no connections, no hope. Day 1 understood them. He was one of them now. He crawled through a narrow maintenance shaft, his toolbox scraping against the metal walls. The ventilation unit was making strange noises again, probably just loose bolts. He had fixed it twice before. Everything on this station was breaking down. Then he heard something else. A small sound. Soft chirping, like birds, but different, weaker. Day 1 stopped moving. He listened carefully. There it was again, coming from deeper in the shaft, behind a sealed panel. The panel had a warning sign on it. Quarantine sector. Authorized access only. He should leave it alone. Walk away. Mind his own business. But the chirping came again, and it sounded so sad. So desperate. Day 1 pulled out his crowbar and pried open the panel. The smell hit him first. Stale air, waste, and something else. Fear. He shined his light into the dark space beyond. His breath caught in his throat. 5 small creatures huddled together in what looked like an old cargo container. They were tiny, no bigger than cats. Their scales shimmered in his light, silver and gold and copper and green and blue. Wings folded against their bodies. Long tails wrapped around each other for warmth. Dragon hatchlings. Day 1 had seen adult Dracarians during the war. Proud, powerful beings who stood 8 feet tall and could breathe fire hot enough to melt steel. These were their children. But these babies were dying. He crawled closer. The hatchlings looked at him with large, luminescent eyes. They were too weak to be afraid. One of them, a silver male, chirped softly. The sound broke Day 1's heart. He pulled out his communication device and checked the station records. His hands shook as he read the file. 5 Dracarian hatchlings, orphaned when their parents died, defending a colony ship. No living relatives found. The Galactic Relief Council reviewed their case 3 weeks ago. Decision: resources insufficient for care. Schedule for humane termination in 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days ago. These babies should already be dead. Someone must have forgotten to carry out the order. Or maybe someone with a conscience had hidden them here, hoping someone would find them. Day 1 looked at the hatchlings. The silver one was trying to crawl toward him, too weak to make it far. The golden female beside him chirped, trying to encourage her brother. He thought about his own squad, how they died protecting refugees just like these. Children fleeing a war they did not start. His best friend, Min Jun, had thrown himself on a grenade to save a shelter full of younglings. Protect the future, Min Jun had said with his last breath. That's why we fight. Day 1 pulled up his account balance on his device. The numbers glowed in the dark. 847 credits. His entire life savings. All he had in the universe. He looked at the hatchlings again. 5 pairs of eyes watching him. Trusting him. Hoping. Damn it, he whispered. He scooped up the silver hatchling gently. The baby was so light, so fragile. It chirped and pressed against his chest, seeking warmth. The others watched, chirping louder now, wanting the same comfort. Day one made trips back and forth, carrying each hatchling carefully through the maintenance shaft to his work cart. He wrapped them in his jacket, his shirt, anything to keep them warm. They huddled together, making soft sounds. His communication device buzzed. A message from Hannah. Day one, did you finish the ventilation repair? He typed back with shaking hands. Need to see you. Your office. Urgent. Is everything okay? No, but I'm making it okay. He pushed the cart through the corridors, moving fast but careful. People stared as he passed. A few pointed. Someone laughed. Look at the crazy human with his blanket pile. Day one did not care. He kept moving. Hannah's office was on the main deck. She met him at the door, concern on her face. She was younger than Day one, maybe 30, with short black hair and tired eyes. Working on this station, aged people fast. What's wrong? She asked. Then she saw the cart, the moving blankets, the soft chirping sounds. Her eyes went wide. Day one, what did you do? I need emergency adoption paperwork, he said. Right now? Those are Dracarian hatchlings. Where did you find them? Lower decks. Quarantine sector. They were scheduled for termination. Hannah checked her computer. Her face went pale. 3 days ago. Someone filed it, but never followed through. She looked at the hatchlings, then at Day one. Do you know what you're asking? The fees, the medical checks, the supplies. How much? At least 800 credits. Maybe more. Day one pulled out his account card. Do it. That's your entire savings. I know. You'll have nothing left. I know. Hannah stared at him. Then she smiled, a real smile for the first time in months. You're either the bravest person I've met or the most foolish. Probably both. She started typing on her computer. This will take time. The system is slow. And when security finds out, an alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. A mechanical voice echoed through the station. Alert! Unauthorized life forms removed from quarantine sector. Security responding. Day one looked at Hannah. She looked back at him. Too late to change your mind now, she said. I know, Day one said. He looked down at the 5 hatchlings in his cart. The silver one was watching him, those luminescent eyes full of trust. He had made his choice. Whatever came next, he would face it. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Security was coming. The door to Hannah's office burst open. Security Chief Talonrake stood in the doorway, his feathered crest raised in anger. The Avarian was tall and intimidating, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. 2 security officers stood behind him, hands on their weapons. Step away from those creatures, Talonrake said, his voice sharp like broken glass. Day one moved in front of the cart, blocking the security chief's view of the hatchlings. I'm adopting them. Legally. Those are scheduled for termination. They are station property. Not anymore, Hannah said, still typing fast on her computer. I'm processing his emergency adoption filing right now. According to Galactic Law Section 47, Subsection 12, any sentient being can file for emergency custody of orphan minors facing immediate harm. Talonrake's feathers ruffled. The filing takes 3 days to process. Until then, those creatures return to quarantine. The law also states that during the processing period, the creatures must remain with the filing party unless they pose immediate danger. Hannah hit a final key and smiled. Filed and time-stamped. These hatchlings stay with Day one. The security chief stepped forward, looming over Day one. You're making a mistake. Human. Those things will grow into monsters. Dragons are dangerous. So are humans, Day one said quietly. When we need to be. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Talonrake turned sharply and walked away. 3 days. If there's one problem, one complaint, I'm taking them. When the security officers left, Day one's legs nearly gave out. He grabbed the desk for support. That was close, Hannah said. She printed out several documents. Sign these, all of them, and we need to get the medical clearance immediately. How much? Day one asked again. Hannah looked at the screen and winced. Adoption fees are 200 credits. Medical scans are 300. Basic supplies, heat lamps, food supplements, bedding, another 300. Total, 800 credits. Day one handed her his account card without hesitation. Take it all. This leaves you with 47 credits. That's not enough to live on. I'll manage. Hannah took the card. Her hands were gentle, like she was handling something precious. You're a good man, Day one. I'm just doing what's right. The medical bay was 2 levels down. Day one pushed the cart carefully, the hatchlings chirping softly under blankets. People stared as he passed. Some whispered. Most looked at him like he was crazy. Dr. Yuki was waiting for them. The Solaria medical officer was small and blue-skinned, with large eyes that seemed to see everything. She had worked at the station for 5 years, treating everyone who needed help, rich or poor. Hannah called ahead. Dr. Yuki said, "Let me see them." Day one pulled back the blankets. The 5 hatchlings blinked in the bright lights of the medical bay. They chirped nervously, pressing together. Dr. Yuki's expression changed. Her professional mask slipped, showing genuine concern. Oh, these poor babies. How long have they been without proper care? At least 3 weeks, according to the records. 3 weeks. Dr. Yuki shook her head. She gently picked up the silver hatchling, examining him carefully. This one is severely malnourished. They all are. She moved to the golden female next. This one even more so. Her scales are dull. That means vitamin deficiency. The copper-colored male was smallest. When Dr. Yuki examined his wings, she made a sad sound. His right wing membrane is damaged, probably from being cramped in that container too long. He may never fly properly. Day one felt his heart sink. Can you help him? Maybe, with time and proper care. Dr. Yuki looked at Day one. These hatchlings need special protein supplements. Expensive ones. They need heat lamps running 20 hours a day. They need vitamins, minerals, and constant monitoring. Do you understand how much this costs? I have 47 credits left. Dr. Yuki was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. Well, lucky for you. The medical examination is free today. But the fees? I decide my own fees. Today, they're free. She started working on the hatchlings, scanning them with medical equipment. But you'll need supplies. Food supplements alone cost 50 credits per week. 4 or 5 hatchlings. That's 250 credits every week. The number hit Day one like a physical blow. He had no idea how he would afford that. But looking at the 5 tiny creatures, so helpless and trusting, he knew he would find a way. Somehow, Dr. Yuki worked for 2 hours, examining each hatchling thoroughly. She gave them vitamin injections, treated their skin infections, and set up a special warming bed for them. All the while, she talked to them in a soft voice, soothing their fears. They're surprisingly strong, she said finally. Most hatchlings wouldn't have survived 3 weeks of neglect. These 5 have fighting spirits. The silver male chirped and looked at Day one. Even weak and sick, there was something bright in his eyes, something that refused to give up. They need names, Dr. Yuki said. Day one looked at each hatchling. The silver male who kept watching him, Bayal, which meant star. The golden female with gentle eyes, Hanul, which meant sky. The small copper male with a damaged wing, Miso, which meant smile. The curious green one who kept looking around, Duri, which meant 2, because he always seemed to be looking at 2 things at once. The playful blue one who kept trying to climb out of bed, Haru, which meant day. Bayal, Hanul, Miso, Duri, and Haru, Day one said. Those are their names. Dr. Yuki smiled. Good names. Strong names. She handed him a bag of supplies. This will last 3 days. After that, she didn't finish the sentence. They both knew the problem. Day one carried the hatchlings back to his quarters in the lower deck. His room was small, barely big enough for his bed and a few belongings. Now he had 5 new roommates. He set up the warming bed Dr. Yuki had given him. The hatchlings climbed in immediately, pressing together for comfort. Bayal, The silver one kept looking at Day One, chirping softly. "I know you're hungry," Day One said. "Let me see what I have." His food supplies were limited. Ration bars, mostly, cheap and tasteless, but they kept him alive. He checked the protein supplement Dr. Yuki had provided. The instructions said to feed each hatchling twice a day. He mixed the supplement with water, creating a thin paste. The hatchlings ate eagerly, their tiny tongues lapping at the mixture. They made happy sounds, their first real meal in weeks. Day One watched them eat. His own stomach growled. He had 2 ration bars left that had to last him until his next payment. 5 days away. He ate half of one bar and saved the rest. That night, lying on his thin mattress, Day One listened to the hatchlings breathe. They made small sounds in their sleep, little chirps and murmurs. Baiyal had climbed out of the warming bed and curled up against Day One's side, seeking comfort. Day One put his hand gently on the small dragon's back. He could feel the heartbeat, fast and delicate. "I'll take care of you," he whispered. "All of you. I promise." Outside his door, he heard footsteps. Someone had left a small box. Inside were protein supplements, vitamin packets, and a note written in messy handwriting. "For the dragons, from a friend." No name, no signature. Day One held the box and felt tears sting his eyes. He wasn't alone in this. Someone else cared too. Over the next 2 days, word spread to the station about the human who had spent his last money to save 5 dragon babies nobody wanted. Most people thought he was foolish. Dragons grow up to be dangerous, they said. He wasted his future on beasts. But some people understood. Some people remembered that kindness was rare in a galaxy torn by war. That compassion was worth more than credits. A young human named Junho, an engineer who worked on the upper decks, heard the story. He remembered being a war orphan himself once. He remembered the soldier who had saved him from a burning building, who had carried him to safety when everyone else ran away. Junho started leaving supplies at Day One's door, never saying who he was, never asking for thanks. Day One worked double shifts, taking any job he could find. He repaired pipes, cleaned waste systems, fixed broken equipment. His body ached. His hands bled. He survived on ration bars and water. But the hatchlings grew stronger. Their scales brightened. Their chirps became louder, happier. They started following Day One around the small room, tumbling over each other, playing like children. Baiyal stayed closest to Day One always, his silver scales shining in the dim light. When Day One left for work, Baiyal cried at the door. When he returned, Baiyal was the first to greet him. On the 3rd day, Day One collapsed. He was working in the engineering section, replacing a power coupling. The heat was intense. His vision blurred. He hadn't eaten properly in days, giving most of his food to stretch the hatchling supplements. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was Baiyal's cry, distant and desperate, as if the small dragon somehow knew his father was in trouble. Day One woke up slowly. The lights above him were too bright. His head felt heavy, like it was filled with sand. He tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pressed him back down. "Stay still," Dr. Yuki said. "You're in the medical bay. You collapsed from exhaustion and malnutrition." Day One blinked, his mind clearing. "The hatchlings. Are they? They're fine. Hannah is watching them in your quarters." Relief flooded through him. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "How long was I out?" 6 hours. Dr. Yuki crossed her arms, looking angry. "Day One, you can't take care of them if you're dead. You haven't been eating properly. Your body is shutting down." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're starving yourself to feed them." She held up a scanner, showing his vital signs. "Your protein levels are dangerously low. Your blood pressure is terrible. If you keep this up, you'll die within a month." Day One looked at the ceiling. "I don't have enough credits for both of us. I can survive on less." "They can't. This isn't surviving. This is dying slowly." Dr. Yuki sat down beside him. "You saved those hatchlings. Now let someone save you." Before Day One could respond, the door opened. Hannah walked in, looking tired but relieved. "You're awake." Good. We need to talk. If this is about the medical bills. It's not. Hannah pulled up a chair. Something happened while you were unconscious. Someone important arrived at the station. A Dracarian elder. She's searching for survivors from her clan. Day one sat up despite Dr. Yuki's protests. What does this mean? It means those 5 hatchlings might have family after all. Her name is Matriarch Sora. She's waiting to meet you. An hour later, Day one stood in his quarters with his heart pounding. The hatchlings were awake, chirping happily when they saw him. Bayal climbed up his leg immediately, settling on his shoulder like always. The others gathered around his feet, their tails wagging. Hannah knocked on the door. She's here. The door opened, and Matriarch Sora entered. She was huge, nearly 8 feet tall, her scales dark blue with age. Scars covered her body, old wounds from countless battles. Her eyes were ancient and sad, filled with centuries of memory. She moved slowly, leaning on a staff carved from black wood. She looked around the small room, then her eyes fell on the 5 hatchlings. Her expression changed. Her mouth opened slightly. Her clawed hands began to shake. "The Golden Sky Clan," she whispered. "I thought they were all gone." She took a step forward. The hatchlings chirped nervously, pressing against Day one's legs. Bayal hid behind Day one's neck, peeking out cautiously. Matriarch Sora knelt down slowly, her old joints creaking. Tears formed in her reptilian eyes. "These are my sister's great-grandchildren, the last of our bloodline. I searched every station, every planet, every refugee camp." She looked up at Day one. "Where did you find them?" "In the lower decks. They were scheduled for termination. I couldn't let that happen." Sora studied him for a long moment. "You are human. You have no connection to our kind. Why did you save them?" "Because nobody else would." The old dragon made a sound, something between a laugh and a sob. "And what did this cost you, human?" "Everything I had." Sora reached out slowly toward Anul, the golden female. The hatchling backed away, chirping in fear. All 5 babies moved behind Dawan, refusing to approach the matriarch. "They don't know me," Sora said quietly. "They don't remember our ways, our songs, our history." She stood up, wincing with the effort. "I have searched for months. I have wealth, resources, everything needed to care for them properly. I can give them a life worthy of the Golden Sky Clan." Day one felt his heart break. He looked down at the 5 hatchlings. At Bayal, who trusted him completely. At Miso, whose wing was healing because of Dr. Yuki's care. At Hanul, Duri, and Haru, who played together every night, filling his quiet room with joy. "How much?" he asked. "What?" "How much will you pay me for them?" Sora's eyes narrowed. "So you did this for profit after all?" "No. I want to know what they're worth to you. In credits." The matriarch was silent for a moment. Then she said, 50,000 credits. Each hatchling is priceless to my clan, but in your currency, this is fair. 50,000 credits. More money than Day one would earn in 5 years. Enough to leave the station, start a new life, maybe even find his family again. He could have everything back. He looked at the hatchlings again. Bayal chirped softly, nuzzling his neck. The small dragon didn't understand conversation, but he sensed Day one's sadness. They need to be with their own kind. Day one said quietly, "I can't teach them to be dragons. I don't know your culture, your language, your history. They deserve better than me." "You speak truth," Sora said. "But watch this." She took another step forward, her arms outstretched. "Come, little ones. I am Matriarch Sora of the Golden Sky Clan. You are safe with me." The hatchlings didn't move. Bayal pressed closer to Day one. Hanul made a distressed sound. Miso spread his healing wings protectively over his siblings. Sora tried again, speaking in the Dracarian language. The words were beautiful, ancient, like music and fire combined. But still, the hatchlings refused to go to her. They cried out, their voices high and frightened. The matriarch stepped back, her expression stunned. "They have imprinted on you." "What does that mean?" "It means they have chosen you as their parent. In Dracaryan culture, the imprint bond is sacred. It cannot be broken, not by force, not by time, not by distance. Sora looked at Day One with new respect. They are yours now, human. You are their father in every way that matters. Day One felt tears in his eyes. But I can barely feed them. I can't give them what they need. Then I will help. Sora moved to the small window, looking out at the stars. I have lived 300 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have fought in 100 wars. But never have I seen what you have done. She turned back to him. You sacrificed everything for children who are not your own, not even your species. This is rare. This is precious. I only did what anyone should do. No, most beings only do what is easy. You did what was right. Sora tapped her staff on the floor. I propose an arrangement. I will provide the resources needed to care for these hatchlings. Food, supplies, medical care, everything. You will raise them, teach them kindness and courage. And I will visit regularly to teach them our culture, our history, who they are meant to be. I don't want your money, Day One said. I didn't save them for profit. I know. That is why I offer it freely. Pride is a luxury. Human. Your children need food more than you need pride. Day One wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He looked at the 5 hatchlings, at their trusting eyes. They needed more than love. They needed proper care. Just help me keep them fed and healthy, he said finally. That's all I ask. Sora smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. You have the heart of a dragon. Human, I accept your terms. She reached into her robes and pulled out a data chip. This contains access to supply account. Use it as needed, and take this as well. She handed him a small medallion carved from crystal. This is the mark of the Golden Sky Clan. You are now part of our family, an honorary Dracaryan. Before Day One could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. A voice echoed through the speakers, cold and mechanical. Alert! Hull breach detected. Unauthorized ships approaching. All security personnel report the stations immediately. This is not a drill. Hannah's communicator buzzed. She answered it, her face going pale. Pirates. A mercenary crew called the Red Void Reavers. They're attacking the refugee sectors. Day One felt his blood turn cold. The refugee sectors. The lower decks, where the weakest people lived, where families with children were easy targets. Through his window, he could see ships approaching, dark vessels with red markings, weapons charging. The hatchlings cried out in fear, sensing the danger. Bayal trembled on Day One's shoulder. Matriarch Sora gripped her staff tightly. They come for slaves and treasure. They will show no mercy. Explosions rocked the station. Somewhere close, people were screaming. Day One looked at his children, at Hannah, at Dr. Yuki, who had just arrived. He thought about all the refugees on this station, the families, the orphans, the people who had already lost everything to one war. Not again, he whispered. Not here. He moved his closet and pulled out a lock case. Inside was something he swore he would never touch again. His rifle from the war. Cleaned, maintained, ready. The soldier inside him woke up. Outside, the pirates were boarding the station. The station shook as another explosion hit somewhere above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The emergency lights painted everything red. People ran through the corridors outside, screaming and crying. Day One checked his rifle. The weapon felt heavy in his hands. He had not held it in 3 years. His hands remembered exactly how it worked. Muscle memory never truly faded. Stay here, he told Hannah. Barricade the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or security. Where are you going? Hannah asked, fear in her voice. To help. You can't fight them alone. I won't be alone. Day One looked at Matriarch Sora. The old dragon's eyes burned with ancient fire. She held her staff like a weapon. I may be old, Sora said, but I have fought pirates before. They bleed just like anyone else. Dr. Yuki grabbed a medical kit. I'm coming too. People will need help. The door burst open before Day One could respond. A young man rushed in, carrying 2 rifles and a bag of ammunition. It was Junho, the engineer who had been leaving supplies. "I knew you were military," Junho said, breathing hard. "I saw how you moved, how you carried yourself. We need you." "How bad is it?" Day One asked. "Bad. They breached 3 sectors. Security is overwhelmed. They're going straight for the refugee areas." Junho's jaw was tight with anger. They want slaves. Children especially. They sell for more on the black markets. Day One felt rage bloom in his chest. Cold and controlled. The same rage that had made him a good soldier. How many pirates? Maybe 30. Their leader is a Krillian named Captain Vex. He's the worst kind. Cruel. Enjoys hurting people. Day One looked at the 5 hatchlings. They huddled together in their warming bed, crying softly. Baiyal looked at him with frightened eyes. "I'll be back," Day One said softly. "I promise." He kissed the top of Baiyal's head, then turned to Hannah. "No matter what happens, protect them." Hannah nodded, tears on her face. "Be careful." Day One, Junho, Matriarch Sora, and Dr. Yuki move into the corridor. Other people joined them. An old Solarian man with a pipe wrench, 2 Avarian women with shock sticks, a human couple carrying kitchen knives. Not soldiers, just ordinary people who refuse to run. "We need a plan," Junho said. Day One's mind worked quickly, analyzing the situation like he had been trained. "The pirates will move toward the central refugee area. That's where most families are gathered. We need to hold the main junction, stop them from getting through." "There's only 15 of us," someone said. "They have 30 trained fighters." "Then we use the environment." Day One pointed to the narrow corridor ahead. "This is a choke point. They can only come at us a few at a time. We make them fight on our terms." They moved quickly, setting up their defense. Day One positioned people behind cover, showed them how to shoot properly, how to conserve ammunition. His training came back like he had never left the military. Matriarch Sora stood at the front, her staff glowing with ancient power. "I will stand with you, human. Today, we protect the helpless together." The pirates came 10 minutes later. Their voices echoed through the corridor, laughing and shouting. They thought this would be easy. Just another station full of weak refugees. Captain Vex led them. He was massive, 8 feet of scale muscle and cruelty. His armor was decorated with bones. His eyes were yellow and cold. He carried a plasma rifle that could cut through metal. "Spread out," Vex ordered his crew. "Take anyone valuable. Kill anyone who resists. Make it quick." They turned the corner and saw Day One's group blocking the corridor. Vex laughed. "Look at this. Citizens playing soldier. How cute." "Turn around," Day One said calmly. "Leave the station. Nobody has to die today." "Wrong. Human. Lots of people will die today." Vex raised his rifle. "Starting with you." The battle erupted. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor. Day One fired with precise accuracy, hitting 2 pirates before they could react. Junho took cover and laid down covering fire. The other defenders fought with desperate courage. Matriarch Sora moved like lightning despite her age. Her staff spun in complex patterns, deflecting energy bolts. When a pirate got close, she struck him with the staff, and electricity crackled through his body. 300 years of combat experience made her deadly. Dr. Yuki pulled wounded defenders to safety, treating injuries between explosions. Her small hands worked quickly, stopping bleeding, stabilizing trauma. The pirates were better armed and better trained, but they had not expected real resistance. The narrow corridor worked against them. They could not use their numbers effectively. Day One fought like he had never stopped being a soldier. Every shot counted. Every movement was precise. He remembered his training, his squad, his purpose. Protect the innocent. Hold the line. Never retreat. The battle lasted 20 minutes. The pirates fell back, leaving dead and wounded behind. Captain Vex snarled in frustration. "Retreat to Sector C," he ordered. "We'll find another way around." But Day One knew the station layout. Sector C led directly to the lower residential areas, to families, to children, to his quarters where 5 helpless hatchlings waited. "Junho, take command here," Day One said. "I need to go." "Where?" "They're going after the residential sector. That's where my children are." Junho grabbed his arm. "You can't fight them alone." "I have to." Day One pulled away and ran. He took shortcuts through maintenance tunnels, climbing through access shafts, moving faster than he had moved in years. His lungs burned. His muscles screamed. He ignored the pain. He reached his quarters just as Captain Vex's group arrived. They were breaking down doors, dragging people out, looking for anything valuable. Day One saw his door. Still closed. Still barricaded. But Vex was walking toward it, his plasma rifle charging. "This one's reinforced." Vex said, "Something good must be inside." He fired at the lock. The door buckled, but held. He fired again. Day One heard Bayal's cry from inside, that high-pitched scream of pure terror. All 5 hatchlings were crying now, their voices piercing through the metal. Dragons, Vex said, his eyes gleaming. Even better than slaves. Dragon hatchlings sell for a fortune. He kicked the door. It broke open. Inside, Hannah stood with a pipe, shaking but defiant. The 5 hatchlings cowered behind her, their scales dim with fear. "Get away from them," Hannah said. Vex laughed and backhanded her. She flew across the room and hit the wall, unconscious. The hatchlings cried louder. Miso tried to spread his wings, trying to look threatening despite being tiny. Vex pulled out a stunning net, designed to capture live creatures. "Come here, little dragons. You're worth more alive, but I'll settle for your scales if you resist." He reached for Miso, the smallest one, and then Day One was there. He hit Vex from behind, driving his shoulder into the pirate captain's back. Vex stumbled forward, surprised. He spun around, bringing his rifle up. Day One grabbed the barrel and twisted, throwing Vex off balance. Years of combat training took over. He moved without thinking, his body knowing exactly what to do. "Get away from my children," Day One said. His voice was quiet, deadly. Vex recovered and swung his fist. The blow caught Day One in the ribs, cracking bone. Pain exploded through his chest. He ignored it and struck back, hitting Vex in the throat. They fought in the small room, brutal and close. Vex was stronger, bigger, better armed. But Day One was protecting his family. That made him dangerous in ways Vex could not understand. The hatchlings watched, crying and scared. They saw their father fighting, bleeding, refusing to fall. And something inside them responded. All 5 hatchlings began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. Their scales shone with inner fire. Energy crackled around their small bodies. This was their first awakening, their dragon powers emerging far too early, triggered by desperate need. "Protect, father," Bayal said, his first words, spoken in a voice that was both childish and ancient. The 5 hatchlings released their power together. A wave of pure energy exploded outward, washing over the room. Vex screamed as the energy hit him, throwing him backward to the door and into the corridor. He landed hard, his armor smoking. His crew stared in shock at the 5 glowing hatchlings visible through the doorway. "Fall back," Vex shouted, pain and fear in his voice. "Fall back now." The pirates ran. Behind them, station security finally arrived in force, led by Talonrake. The security chief saw the fleeing pirates and gave chase. Day One collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Blood ran down his face. His ribs screamed with pain. But he was smiling. The 5 hatchlings rushed to him, their glow fading. They climbed over him, chirping and crying, checking if he was okay. "I'm fine," Day One whispered. "I'm fine. You're all safe. That's what matters." Bayal pressed his small head against Day One's chest, right over his heart. The other 4 joined him. They could hear the heartbeat, strong and steady. Their father's heartbeat. The sound that meant safety, love, home. Outside in the corridor, Matriarch Sora arrived with Junho. She saw the scene and stopped, her ancient eyes wide with wonder. "They awakened," she whispered. 5 hatchlings, awakening together. This has not happened in 1,000 years. Day One held his children close, all 5 of them, feeling their warmth, their trust, their love. He had saved them, and they had saved him. That was what family meant. 3 days after the pirate attack, Day One stood in a large hearing room. His ribs were wrapped in bandages. His face still showed bruises. But he stood straight, his shoulders back, facing the Galactic Council representative without fear. Counselor Thane sat behind a high desk, looking down at Day One with cold eyes. The council was tall and thin, with gray skin and no hair. He wore the official robes of the Galactic Council, dark blue with silver stars. Day One of Earth, Counselor Thane said, his voice echoing in the room. You are charged with unauthorized military action, vigilante violence, and endangering station residents by engaging hostile forces without proper authority. The hearing room was packed. Hundreds of station residents had come to watch. They filled every seat, standing along the walls, pressing close to see what would happen to the human who had saved them. How do you plead? Counselor Thane asked. Guilty, Day One said simply. I did everything you said. I fought without authorization. I organized civilians into a fighting force. I engaged the enemy. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Counselor Thane raised an eyebrow. You confess freely? I confess truthfully. I broke the rules, but I saved lives. If that's wrong, then I'll accept whatever punishment you give me. Before Counselor Thane could respond, Hannah stood up from the crowd. I request permission to testify. Granted. Hannah walked to the front, her voice steady. I am Station Administrator Hannah Kim. I was there when Day One found 5 abandoned hatchlings scheduled for death. He spent his last credits to save them. I was there when he collapsed from hunger because he fed them instead of himself. And I was there when pirates attacked our station. Day One didn't ask for permission to fight. There was no time. He saw people in danger, and he acted. That's not a crime. That's heroism. The crowd erupted in agreement. People shouted their support. Counselor Thane banged his gavel for silence. Dr. Yuki stood next. I am Dr. Yuki, Chief Medical Officer. I treated Day One after he collapsed. His body was shutting down from malnutrition. He was literally dying to keep those hatchlings alive. During the pirate attack, he coordinated our defense and saved countless lives. Without him, hundreds would have died or been taken as slaves. More voices rose from the crowd. People Day One had saved. Parents whose children were safe because of him. Refugees who had found hope in his actions. Then Matriarch Sora stood. The entire room went quiet. A 300-year-old Dracarian matriarch commanded respect from every species. She walked slowly to the front, her staff tapping on the floor. She looked at Counselor Thane with eyes that had seen centuries pass. I am Matriarch Sora of the Golden Sky Clan, she said. Her voice was old but powerful. I have fought in wars before your species left their homeworlds. I have seen true courage and true cowardice. This human, Day One, showed courage that would honor any warrior of any species. He sacrificed everything for children who were not his own. He asked for nothing in return. In my 300 years, I have rarely seen such purity of heart. She turned to face the crowd. The Dracarian people have a saying. The measure of a soul is what it does when nobody is watching. This human saved 5 dying babies in a dark corner where nobody would have known. He did it because it was right. Nothing more. That is the highest virtue. Counselor Thane listened carefully. His cold expression softened slightly. Your testimony is noted, Matriarch. However, the law is clear. Civilians cannot take military action without authorization. Then your law is wrong, a young voice said. Everyone turned. Junho stood up, his face determined. I am Junho Park, station engineer. I was a war orphan. A soldier saved me when I was 5 years old. He died doing it. Day One is the same kind of person. He doesn't wait for permission to do what's right. He just does it. If that makes him a criminal, then we need better laws. The crowd roared with approval. Counselor Thane banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. Then something happened that nobody expected. The 5 hatchlings, who had been sitting quietly beside Day One, stood up. They had grown in the past week, now the size of medium dogs. Their scales gleamed in the light. Bayal, the silver one, walked forward. His luminescent eyes were fixed on Counselor Thane. When he spoke, his voice was clear but young, like a child learning to talk. "Father, protect us," Bayal said slowly. Each word was difficult, but he forced them out. "We protect, Father. That is, family." Hanul, the golden female, stepped beside her brother. "Father, good. Father, kind." Her voice was softer, gentler. "We were dying. Father saved." Miso, the small copper one with a healing wing, spoke next. "Father gave everything. We give everything back." Duri, the curious green one, and Haru, the playful blue one, both chirped in agreement. Too young to speak, but their meaning clear. The entire hearing room fell completely silent. Dragon hatchlings almost never spoke, and never this early. This was extraordinary. Counselor Thane stared at the 5 small dragons. His expression showed shock, then something that might have been respect. He looked at Day One for a long moment. "These hatchlings have awakened their powers," Counselor Thane said quietly. "They have bonded with you. They have spoken in your defense. This is unprecedented." He stood from his desk and walked down to stand in front of Day One. Up close, the counselor looked tired, like a man who had seen too much suffering. "I have reviewed all evidence," Counselor Thane said. "I have heard testimony from dozens of witnesses. I have seen the medical reports, the security footage, and the damage assessments." He paused. "All charges are dismissed." The crowd erupted in cheers. People shouted and clapped. Some cried with relief. Counselor Thane raised his hand for silence. "More than that, Day One of Earth, you displayed the highest virtues of galactic citizenship. You showed courage, compassion, and selflessness. Therefore, I am granting you official guardian status with full parental rights over these 5 Dracarian hatchlings. Furthermore, the Galactic Council will establish a fund in your name for the care of war orphans across all species." Day One felt tears in his eyes. He looked down at the 5 hatchlings, who chirped happily and climbed over him, their tails wagging. "Additionally," Counselor Thane continued, "this station needs better security. I am offering you a position as Station Security Advisor, with proper salary and benefits. Will you accept?" Day One thought about it. He had been a soldier. He had tried to leave that life behind. But maybe he could use those skills to protect instead of destroy, to build instead of fight. "I accept," he said, "on one condition. Junho Park becomes my deputy. He deserves it." Junho's eyes went wide with surprise. Counselor Thane nodded. "Agreed." The months that followed changed everything. Day One trained volunteers in defense and emergency response. The station became safer, more organized, more prepared. Junho proved to be an excellent deputy, smart and dedicated. Hannah was promoted to senior administrator for her bravery during the crisis. She and Day One became close friends, spending evenings talking while watching the hatchlings play. Dr. Yuki expanded the medical bay, treating anyone who needed help regardless of their ability to pay. The 5 hatchlings grew rapidly. By 6 months, they were the size of large dogs. Their personalities developed clearly. Bayal remained brave and loyal, always at Day One's side. Hanul became wise and gentle, learning from Matriarch Sora about Dracarian culture. Miso, who everyone thought might never fly properly, became the best flyer of all 5, his determination overcoming his injury. Duri learned to speak 4 languages and loved reading. Haru stayed playful and brought laughter wherever he went. Other species noticed what Day One had done. They began bringing him younglings nobody else wanted. 3 Solarian cubs whose parents died in the war. 2 Avarian chicks born with defects that made their flock reject them. A human baby found in the wreckage of a destroyed ship. Day One small quarters became too crowded. The station gave him larger space, an entire section converted into a home. It was chaotic and loud and messy and perfect. Matriarch Sora visited every week, teaching the hatchlings about their heritage. She also taught Day One, officially adopting him into the Golden Sky clan. as an honorary Dracarian. You have the heart of a dragon, she told him. Species means nothing. Spirit means everything. One evening, Day One sat on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly outside the window. All 5 dragons, now juvenile-sized, curled around him. Bayal's head rested on his lap. Hanul's tail wrapped around his shoulders. Miso, Duri, and Haru piled together at his feet. Hannah found him there. She sat down beside him, smiling at the dragon pile. "You look happy," she said. "I am," Day One replied. "For the first time in years, I am." "You saved them." "No, they saved me. I was empty before I found them. Now I have purpose. I have family." Junho arrived with the 3 Solarian cubs and 2 Avarian chicks, all chattering and playing. The observation deck became crowded with younglings of different species, all of them safe, all of them loved. "We need bigger quarters," Junho said, laughing as one of the cubs climbed onto his head. "We always need bigger quarters," Day One said, smiling. He looked around at his strange, beautiful family. Dragons and humans and Solarians and Avarians, all different, all together. They had nothing in common except that someone had chosen to care for them when nobody else would. Bayal nuzzled Day One's hand. The silver dragon was nearly as tall as Day One now, but still acted like a baby around his father. "I love you, too," Day One whispered. Outside the window, a ship was arriving. Another refugee transport, carrying more survivors, more orphans, more beings who had lost everything. Day One stood up. "Come on," he told his family. "We have work to do." They walked together toward the docking bay. A human veteran, 5 young dragons, 2 Avarian chicks, 3 Solarian cubs, and all the hope they carried with them. In a galaxy torn by war, one person had proven that compassion could change everything. That family was not about blood or species, but about choice, about who you protect, and who protects you in return. This was humanity at its best. This was love without limits. This was home.